Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. As far as the ears are concerned, this one's fine. This one, not fine at all. Has been a massive pain in the ass, or in this case, a pain in the ear, and I've been really having trouble trying to put up with it. But we won't worry about that. We will worry about what this book holds, because we're nearly at the end here. So, Chapter 6, Real Democracy. It has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried. Winston Churchill. And my ears are still popping off. Anyway, in discussing what can be done to counter the oligarchy and bring about real democracy, let's return to look at how little resemblance there is between democracy and what goes on in Britain. It should go without saying that any system where political power is wielded by a tiny subset of society is not democracy. The Oxford English Dictionary defines democracy as 1. Government by the people, that form of government in which the sovereign power resides in the people as a whole, and is exercised either by them, the people as a whole, or by officers elected by them, emphasis added. Or 2, that class of people has no hereditary or special rank or privilege, the common people, emphasis added. The first meaning recorded in the English language, 1, is found in the books from 1531. The second meaning is found in books from 1827. Is it any wonder that vast swathes of the common people want nothing to do with representative democracy in Britain in the 21st century, since it is run by an oligarchy who do not represent the common people of Britain in any way at all? That we have spent so much time exposing how political and economic power is wielded deceptively by a tiny subset of society is a testament to how much effort that subset have put into deceiving the majority of our people. The Greek root of the word democracy is demos, meaning the common man, the people, should rule. That the common people should be the source of political authority. The problem with Britain's democracy isn't just that. On average, a government gets to be the government based on the actions of as few as 20% of all registered voters. See Appendix 8, rightmost column. This problem is compounded by many other factors. Most glaringly, by 2024, not only half of adults in Britain bothered to vote at all. 1/2 of adults in this country voted at the 2024 general election. This is the lowest... Oh, it's actually my blue shirt, sorry. Anyway, this is the lowest share of all the population to vote since universal suffrage. Even among registered voters, only 3 in every 5 cast a ballot, including myself. If non-voters were a party, they would have been the largest party by some distance. Large numbers of potential voters are not even registered to vote, such that as those who actually bother to vote are no more than half the potential voters. So the concept of low turnout doesn't begin to capture how disillusioned the masses are. The academics and former MPs behind that analysis act like this is surprising. What is surprising, however, is how long the elite have managed to conceal that they are knowingly operating an anti-democratic elitist system. See Chapter 3.4. Oligarchy pretending to be democracy. The half of adults who don't vote are the people who have realised that the system is rigged. No matter who they vote for, they get politicians who implement policies that the vast majority of people do not want. Think of all the videos where I have started to use the term, we have got 4 John Smiths in battle, and we're surprised when John Smith is the one that comes out on top, basically. The oligarchy do what they want. Then tell the public, you approved of this by voting. The system is fundamentally and essentially corrupt. Even among those who vote, the vast majority always get a government they do not want, as Appendix 8 proves. If we include the citizens who didn't register to vote, then Labour got total control of the legislature based on the active support of about 10% of the adult citizens. and I'm not going to call him sir. No wonder Keir the traitor Starmer is behaving like a tyrant. He is a tyrant, ruling over the vast majority of the population with the support of a sliver of that population. God, I'm not ready to part this molten coil yet. Fucking hell. The orange is doing me in. Anyway, within the parliamentary system itself, there is fundamental corruption. There is also the problem of pairing, where those chosen to legislate in Parliament enter into agreement with the opposing party, such as that the politicians both agree not to attend the assembly if the other member of the pair agrees not to go, leaving both of them free, for example, to work in some other job or to have meetings with lobbyists. This pairing procedure goes on in the parliaments of the UK, USA, Australia, Canada, Sweden, etc., etc. It's probable that the vast majority of voters have no idea that their representative, in air quotes, is in a cosy relationship with their supposed opponents, while in the media puppet theatre, the political parties act as if they hate each other. But the oligarchy are there to serve their interests, not our interests. Then there's the problem of a delegated legislation. This is where, rather than MPs passing laws in Parliament, these laws are passed by individuals behind closed doors. This practice began Britain? What? That doesn't make any sense. This practice began in Britain in World War I and was extended in World War II, and has never stopped. And even many lawyers find it difficult to navigate through the winding paths of the laws and many amendments of these delegated acts. Wars allow the oligarchy to remove more democratic control and to advance socialist control. The socialist control is the fascist state pretending that its tyranny is for the benefit of the people. You might think such delegated laws are rare, but there are actually the vast majority of laws in modern Britain. Parliament itself admits this, but they know that the media can be trusted to ensure the masses won't discover that they are governed by laws passed by individuals and not even parlayed in Parliament. Parliament's own document says, and I quote, "The average number of voted acts passed each year increased between 1950 and 1970, but it has since exhibited a downward trend. An average of 33 UK Acts of Parliament were passed annually from 2006 to 2018, compared to 62 in the 1950s. The chart below estimates the number of statutory instruments, SI, made each year. An average of 3,000 UK SI delegated laws were issued annually from 2010 to June 2019. End quote. So of 3,033 laws passed each year in the UK, only 33 are passed by debate and vote. So that is effectively only just over 1%, just to point out. While hundreds times as many are passed behind closed doors. And this data is freely admitted by the Houses of Commons Library, but even they have to estimate the number of laws passed in private. So parliamentary democracy is a fig leaf concealing the true nature and the scale of legislative power in Britain. Naturally, the left in Britain, including the founder of the British Union of Fascists, have been hugely in favour of these anti-democratic measures, individual ministers passing laws behind closed doors. It was under these statutory instruments, delegated legislation, that a law was passed so that the Fabian socialist Keir the traitor Starmer would have £700,000 of his taxpayer-funded pension exempt from taxation. At the time, Starmer was not an MP, but was the Director of Public Prosecutions, head of the Labour government's agency in charge of criminal prosecutions, the agency which, since the 1970s, had allowed Muslim gangs to rape English schoolgirls. So, under a consocialist government with no debate in Parliament, this law, named the Pensions Increase, Pension Scheme for Keir the Traitor Starmer QC, Regulations 2013, was quietly passed. From 2013 to 22, there was no search results to be found on Google concerning this law, which shows how well the oligarchy and their minions can keep things out of the public eye. As a reward for its compliance with the policies of the oligarchy in regard to who should be subject to criminal prosecution between 2008 and 13, Keir the traitor Starmer got a knighthood and a special law passed to protect his pension. Of course, he's not alone in getting this kind of special protection from taxation. Judges are also exempt from pension-related taxes. The oligarchy rewards those who help the oligarchy. It was only once it became obvious that Starmer would soon be Prime Minister that the media started to discuss the law passed to enrich him. If Starmer had remained an MP and was not imminently appointed as PM, to be anointed PM, no doubt the media would continue to keep quiet about his lush secretive deal with the Con-Socialist government. What happens in liberal democracies is that the MPs make a lot of sound and fury in Parliament and in the media, a pretense that they vigorously oppose each other, whilst the reality is that in Britain only 1% of laws are passed by them, actually fewer than when we consider that significant number of laws originate in the House of Lords. And of the fewer than 1% of laws passed by votes in the debating chamber of the House of Commons, most of the MPs are not even in attendance, unless it is something really high profile which occurs a couple of times a year. The media go along with this puppet theatre not only because not only are the media part of the oligarchy, but for them, this puppet theatre is entertainment, celebrity gossip, another circus distraction like game shows, reality TV, sports, etc., etc. As the anarchist Noam Chomsky said, and I quote, "One of the ways you control what people think is by creating the illusion that there is a debate going on, but making sure that the debate stays within very narrow margins. Namely, you have to make sure that both sides in the debate accept certain assumptions, and those assumptions turn out to be the propaganda system. As long as everyone accepts the propaganda system, then you can have a debate." End quote. With the oligarchy factions, or within them, the factions pretend that they hate and oppose each other, but out of the sight of the masses, these opponents are marrying into each other's families, inviting each other to dinner and sporting events, are part of the same business organisations where they enrich themselves. You will often see political enemies in Parliament or on TV treating each other viciously in debate, then laughing and joking when they are off the stage. There are old stroke number one. There are old British movies from the 1930s where the characters comment on the pretense that politicians oppose each other. The joke that politics is show business for ugly people captures some of the truth. Despite the fraud perpetrated on the masses by the oligarchy, there have been long signs that increasing numbers of ordinary people are seeing through the fraud. In 2019, the Hansard Society produced its last report. The report started in 2004. Here are the highlights of the 2019 report. 63% think Britain's system of government is rigged to advantage the rich and powerful. 72% say the political system needs quite a lot or a great deal of improvement. These are all bullet points, by the way. So bullet point 3. 50% said the main parties and politicians don't care about the people like them. Point 4. Despite all the hatred the Ramonas get spread about racist Brexiteers, 55% still think that big questions should be put to the public in referendums more often than today. Point number 5. The report revealed a 15-year high in those who strongly disagree that political involvement in the current system can change the way the UK is run. Point 6. The social class most likely to vote is Class AB, rich and highly educated. That same class is most interested in politics. And point 7, AB are the social group most satisfied with the present system, 36%. Non-white people are more satisfied with the present system than white people, and non-whites are 30% more likely to agree that political involvement is effective. Point 8. Even so, only 38% of the elite AB social class think that the political involvement is effective. 29% of social class, DE, think that. The report revealed a 15-year high, 0.9 by the way, in those who think they have no influence over national decision-making. Point 10, 30% never discuss government or politics. The percentage who discuss politics a few times a week or more is 32%, which means the vast majority, 68%, go weeks without discussing politics. Point 11. I had to think about that. 66% think politicians should be able to say what is on their mind, regardless of what anyone else thinks about such views. Couldn't agree more on that shit. Point 12. The percentage of people who say they know nothing about politics or the UK Parliament went up from 24% in 2018 to 38% in 2019. And point number 13. With Brexit, Remainers were far more likely to vote, were far more interested in politics, and felt like they knew a lot more about politics. Yeah, I wonder why. I think the whole hot head, a head full of hot air, and wanting to do what the globalist wankers want could be a good example. Anyway, Remainers felt they knew more about how Parliament works, how political involvement is effective, and were more satisfied with the current system of government, but only 27% of Remainers were satisfied with it. This is a shocking indictment about the state of democracy in the UK. If oligarchs such as George Soros were truly interested in democracy, don't you think they would fund reports such as this and studies into how to bring about real democracy? Whilst the whole report is damning, the demographic groupings who are most happy with the existing system are the elite class, the replacement population, and the fanatics who support the anti-democratic European Union. Those who the oligarchy favour, the rich and powerful, and the mascot groups who they see as having political clout, are most in favour of the existing system. Not much surprise here, or there. So 63% of voters think British democracy is rigged. The incoming 2024 Labour government got its massive majority for its fascist programme based on a mere 20% of the votes cast. Obviously, those 63% who think Britain's democracy is rigged are correct. It's surprising that the number who realise it is rigged isn't 80%. When the news media reported on the Hansa Society report, they highlighted stroke number 2. They highlighted that more than 75% of people could not even name their MP in a system that claims to be representative democracy. And this MP, and this is despite the Daily News obsessing about the puppet theatre that is Parliament. When the first Hansa Society survey was published in 2004, the Guardian headline said of it, interest in politics dips to record low. A low not seen in surveys going back to the 1970s. But the 2019 survey is much worse than the 2004 survey, so we can say that the levels of stroke number 3, the levels of dissatisfaction with the oligarchy are higher now than at any time in the previous 50 years. On the 2004 Hansa Society survey, The Guardian quotes the Electoral Commission chairman saying, "The audit clearly demonstrates that people want to have a say in the way decisions are made and to feel reassured that they are being listened to." We're definitely not being listened to. As elected representatives, politicians at all levels must make that connection, and we hope this audit will be the catalyst for debate and action. But of course, 20 years after the first Hansa Society report, the oligarchy have not given up an iota of power. The oligarchy spend untold millions of pounds every year bringing in the replacement population, but spend nothing on discussions to give the public more control of social and economic policy. The oligarchy knows Michael's 1911 report analysis of the corrupt nature of democracy, but they don't want the public to know about how fundamentally corrupt liberal democracy is. Their plans are the very opposite of letting the masses have more control. Early on in political parties, Michaels discussed the idea of direct democracy and why this solution was impossible for technical reasons. Whilst direct democracy was practiced at times in ancient Greece and ancient Rome millennia ago, given the size of modern nation-states, it is considered impossible now, although to some extent that is just a matter of attitude. Michaels pointed out that in Germany's Rhineland in 1870, a socialist politician came up with an idea of how direct democracy could be implemented. According to this system, the entire population was to be divided into sections containing 1,000 inhabitants, or each one containing 1,000 inhabitants. The members of each section were to assemble in some pre-arranged place, a school, town hall, or other public building, and to elect a president. Every citizen was to have the right of speech. Every citizen, sorry. And in this way, the intelligence of every individual would be placed at the service of the fatherland. When the discussion was finished, each one would record his vote. The president would transmit the result to the burgomaster, the mayor, who would notify the higher authorities. The will of the majority would be decisive. No legislative proposal was to come from above. The government should have no further initiative than to determine that on a given day all the sections should discuss a given argument. Whenever a certain number of the citizens demanded a new law of any kind, or the reform of an existing law, the ministry concerned must invite the people to exercise its sovereignty within a stated time, and to pass for itself the law in question. The law takes organic form from the discussion itself. It should be clear that any system like this would be more work for the citizens, but also it would stop the oligarchy from passing laws which either the citizens did not want or which were even damaging to the citizenry. But with all the advances in technology since 1870, the first patent for the telephone was issued in 1876, there should be far less onerous ways to manage the process of direct democracy than the one proposed in 1870. Michaels claimed that the single strongest reason why direct democracy cannot work is, in his view, the psychological reason of how a crowd can be swayed in one direction. And once this happens, then the crowd is hard to reason with. The most formidable argument against the sovereignty of the masses, however, is derived from the mechanical and technical impossibility of its realization. The impotence of direct democracy is a direct outcome of the influence of number. Clearly, if this really is true, there is another technical problem which any implementation of Stroke number 5, man alive, of direct democracy must solve. This is not looking good for me. I've had like 3 strokes in 4 minutes? Christ almighty. However, we can see with both the Brexit referendum and Trump's 2016 US election that the public often resist overwhelming pressure from the oligarchy to do what the oligarchy are telling them to do. For about a year before the 2016 election, virtually every opinion poll claimed Clinton would win, and after the polls closed for the Brexit referendum, even Nigel Farage Nigel Farage, or maybe I was right first time, was on TV saying, "I think we've lost." Events such as this have caused a crisis of confidence in the massive industry of opinion polls. A large part of the public are no longer prepared to tell the pollsters what they truly think. Michaels was more positive about how much closer the early trade union movement in England was to being democratic, as the delegates were either appointed in rotation from among all its members or were chosen by lot. It wasn't simultaneous sovereignty of the masses, but it did at least mitigate against the formation of a self-serving oligarchy. Now we move to chapter 6.1. Bear with me. Much better. Inadequate solutions. Chapter 6.1. When it came to actual implementations of democracy to be found in 1911, Michaels thought that the situation in Switzerland was ahead of other nations. In the domain of public law, democracy attains its culminating point in that complex of institutions which exists in Switzerland. Which exists in Switzerland. I can't even read now. Where the people possess the right of the referendum and that of the initiative. The use of the referendum is compulsory in Switzerland upon a number of questions which are statutorily determined. The legislative measures drawn up by the representative body must then be submitted for a popular vote, for acceptance or rejection. In addition, the burghers, citizens, exercise the power of direct legislation. When a certain number of voters demand the repeal of an existing law or the introduction of a new one, the matter must be submitted to a popular vote. And it's sad to say that in more than 100 years of progressive ideology, the politics have progressed no further than Michael's observations from 1911. In 2024, what the progressive left's solution to the lack of democracy? Keep the current system of oligarchical control, something the left has known is a problem since at least the time of Michael's, and just ban parties from having any income except membership fees. I have a cure for all our ailing democracy. Ban all donors, British and foreign. Run politics on membership fees. So the left's only tweak is to propose something that might give them increased power in the oligarchy. This is what passes for radical politics in Britain. The oligarchy do not want change, even when they are purporting to be far left. While direct democracy is a subject that's been fundamentally ignored or dismissed... Stroke number 6. Ignored or dismissed by journalists, academics and politicians. This failure to look for radical solutions is not really surprising. The people in these professions are all, to the greater or lesser degree, members of the oligarchy and thus beneficiaries of the corrupt system of government called liberal democracy. A few books on the topic of direct democracy have been published, but their discussions and recommendations are so inadequate that they offer almost nothing of value. In Direct Democracy, The Politics of Initiative, Referendum and Recall in 1989 was Thomas E. Cronin's very first book, and the page begins, "For about 100 years, Americans have been saying that voting occasionally for public officials is not enough. Political reformers contend that more democracy is needed and that the American people are mature enough and deserve the right to vote on critical issues facing their state and their nation." That was written 35 years ago by a professor of American institutions and leadership. And yet, what progress has there been in this direction? That professor focuses on the idea of having more referendums or the ability to sack elected officials from office without waiting for elections. But as noted, Michaels discussed proposals for vastly more devolved lawmaking which had been proposed in 1870. In The New Challenge of Direct Democracy, 2007, the book presents the title as a URL. Yet, of the 200 pages of the book, there's no significant discussion of how technology might be used to enable direct democracy. It looks like the designer of the book's cover had more insight into the potential solutions than the author. The author was only professor of government at the University of Essex, but would presumably deny being a member of the oligarchy. The book has a mere 6 pages on what institutional changes and electronic technology, would those institutional changes and electronic technology help? No technological issues are even discussed, and this more than a decade after Windows 95 popularized even internet browsing. The word internet doesn't even appear in the index of the book. If we move ahead a few years to another discussion of direct democracy, we get some progress. In Social Structures of Direct Democracy, 2014, Professor... Oh God, I'm going to butcher this fucking name. I know I am. Professor Asimakopoulos comes up with some ways in which she thinks that this can be put into practice. He starts off with, the elite own everything. They perpetuate crimes against all, which they then hide from the public discord through their ownership of mass media. The good professor obviously doesn't think he is a member of the elite, despite the fact that he holds a prestigious job in indoctrinating students who take out a small fortune in debt to get his indoctrination. He doesn't think he's a member of the elite when prestigious publishers issue his books. Despite him being an anarchist, as far as we can gather, none of the books have been censored. The above book from 2014 is still on sale from Amazon, when the books of McLaughlin and Robinson, Tommy, were banned within a couple of years of publication, despite our politics being far less extreme than anarchism. Published a century after Michael's political parties, this anarchist book on direct democracy offers almost nothing that wasn't known by 1911. Is it any wonder that the oligarchy ensure the public don't know of Michael's book? When it comes down to it, Asimakopoulos' analysis isn't any real advance on what was offered by Michael's. Contemporary forms of representative democracy offer little more than the illusion of participation, which largely consists of voting occasionally for some public offices. Despite a couple of references to Michaels, there's no acknowledgement that virtually all of these suggestions were discussed by Michaels over a century before. Perhaps all that is new is that Asimacopoulos advocates for the public securing corporate governments through insurrectionary direct action. But it's not likely that this is going to happen without severe social disorder, economic damage, and political violence or lengthy court cases. In order to prevent the new controllers of the business, the workers, and from forming a new oligarchy, each major corporation would have its board of directors filled exclusively by randomly selected citizens and workers of the firm, while leaving stock ownership private, a scheme ideally replicated in all industrial democracies. Asimacopoulos refers to Marxism and Marxists about 30 times as often as he does to Michaels. As an anarchist, he seems desperate to airbrush out of history the evils and failings of communism. That fascist and representative democratic regimes are equally anti-egalitarian is demonstrated by their willingness to cooperate when profit is in hand. During the Cold War, the US and Soviet governments routinely traded with each other. Basically, we saw in real life two literary classics by the visionary George Orwell being played out, Animal Farm and 1984. In case you think we are distorting the truth, or what the professor says, the above is all from one paragraph. So this professor appears to be saying that the Soviet Union was fascist and the USA was representative government, and they worked together. That's when he compounds this by implying that this view is exactly what Orwell's books were about, when the standard reading of Animal Farm is that it was about the true workings of Bolshevism and Stalinism, whilst 1984 was about the brutal deception and repression under INGSOC, English socialism. And I think I will read the next 4 pages, because that will take us up to chapter 7. So 6.2, demand direct democracy. As we have just shown, despite all their training, all their access to information resources, all their access to conferences and other experts, all the time these academics have had to discuss, to write, to research, all their access to the publishing industry, in over a century, they have come up with no practical ideas about implementing real democracy. We can see that they are making no serious efforts to fix the corruption inherent in representative democracy, corruption that has been known since the start of European history. Of course, virtually every politician in every liberal democracy knows this, but the oligarchy are not interested in giving up power, and as Jack London pointed out, to protect their power they work as one, even when they are spouting anarchism or communism. Academics might publish obscure books or attend conferences about direct stroke number 7 about direct democracy in ancient Greece, but they will ensure those debates do not get out to the wider public. Was it stroke 7? I think it might be stroke 6, but I'm going to say stroke number 7 for the sake of convenience. Anyway, they don't want Joe Bloggs to have as much say as each academic has. Very recently, there has been a significant increase in the number of books that are being published on sortition. The idea of democracy, where the lawmakers are appointed by lottery. In 2008, a conference on this was held in Paris, and in the past 5 years, many books on the subject have been produced. When you see the oligarchy suddenly put concerted effort into something, you should be suspicious. Why are they suddenly interested in the idea of representative democracy, where some of the lawmakers will be chosen by lottery? Our suspicion is that they are suddenly concerned that a rise in populism could unseat their Tweedledee versus Tweedledum pretense at democracy. Michael said that what was hindering direct democracy was technical impossibility. But that technical impossibility vanished with the popularization of the internet from 1995 onwards. You must do your banking online. You must fill in your tax returns online. You must apply for your passport online. Using your smartphone to take your own photo will appear on your own passport. You renew your driving license online, and the government will connect up that photo with the one on your passport. You book your doctor's appointments online, and view your medical records online. Lots of office jobs, and now people working remotely online. Most of the neighbours will be doing their grocery shopping online and getting meals delivered without speaking to anyone. Most of your online actions are being tracked by thousands of companies. They profile you and then target messages, including messages intended to change your behaviour. The oligarchy are in favour of all this, but they have absolutely no interest in using any of this technology to pass political power back to the people. The technical impossibility of direct democracy ended decades ago, but those with power never want to relinquish that power. Millions of people are happy to spend time watching entertainment on TV, where they can then go through rounds of voting of talent shows, Eurovision, or reality TV shows, which are not reality. Why wouldn't some millions want to spend some time discussing economic policy, foreign policy, social policy, what the level of taxation should be, what should be taught in school, how long prison sentences should be? Maybe not everyone would want to do this, but even having 3 million people, 5% of the population, taking part in such votes is better than having laws passed by 30 MPs or lords. Parliament really being people who speak for vested interests for some section of the 1%. If people are not happy with the laws passed by 3 million people under direct democracy, then there would literally be nothing stopping those unhappy people from encouraging their friends and family to get involved in the law-making process. Real direct democracy would be a revolution, but possibly also conservative. There would be no need for the House of Commons and the House of Lords. There would be no need for political parties. If you think the masses can't be trusted to pass laws, why then can we be trusted to select select those who do pass the laws? If you believe that the public are not fit to make decisions, but are fit every few years to select an elite to rule, then you are saying that you don't believe in democracy, you believe in democratic elitism. Chapter 3.4, which is, in reality, oligarchy. The laws passed by even as few as 3 million voters would be much simpler laws, and there would be far fewer of those laws passed. And that is exactly how it should be. Thousands of laws are passed each year in Britain, often not even by MPs, but by civil servants under delegated powers. In the UK, there are only some 650 MPs, and with their cosy oligarchy, they are paired up. So when MP Smith from Party X decides to attend a vote, she contacts MP Chowdhury to ensure that he will take the day off as well. Even worse, when very controversial laws are passed, for example the EU treaties, senior politicians who advocated for and voted for these laws admitted shamelessly that they didn't even read the legislation. We can be sure that those admitting to this are at the tip of the iceberg. It seems likely that the vast majority of MPs do not read the laws that they pass. These people are often qualified lawyers who pass laws without reading the bill, yet we are all subject to these laws over which we had no control, or which, even if we could understand the legislation without the expensive professional guidance from lawyers that the MPs we can get, we have no vote on whether it becomes law. This is how the oligarchy want it. The public don't make laws, the public don't understand the laws, but the public are victim of these laws, and the oligarchy get richer in passing and implementing these laws. When members of the public consult lawyers to get the true ramifications of the laws explained to us, we are further funding the oligarchy by paying these lawyers. Under direct democracy, maybe no more than a couple of laws a year would be passed. That's why direct democracy would be both revolutionary and conservative. Considering that the English legal system dates back to 1066, the occupation of England, when the Norman invaders became the new oligarchy in England, after 1,000 years of laws being passed, how many new laws do we need each year? Perhaps ideas like abolishing the House of Commons and the House of Lords sound extreme, but you have to remember how much the oligarchy shaped your mind and your thinking. Remember Jack London's concept of Three slaves, or Orwell's gramophone minds. The oligarchy control what you heard at school, what you see on TV, what you can read, what you can find on the internet. With hate speech laws, they can even control what you say. They control what political parties exist, or can exist rather, and what politicians can say. Remember how in Israel the law was changed and Kahane's party was destroyed. He who controls the past controls the future. Principles such as direct bureaucracy by lottery worked in the past, but it sounds like a crazy idea now. But because the idea has been moved so far outside what we are trained to think is possible. If we said we want to abolish the House of Lords, that too might be seen as an extreme position. But that indeed that did indeed happen some 375 years ago when Cromwell abolished the House of Lords. Yet that English Revolution failed. Unlike Cromwell, what we envisioned would require the abolition of Parliament, but the monarchy would remain as figureheads. When there's a will, there's a way. Well, my name's not Will, and I have no way. Anyway, the oligarchy have no will, no desire to allow actual democracy in the West, because it would mean for them diminished power and less opportunity for their financial enrichment. Consider where we could be if there had been such desire to institute real what? Real what? No, I'm serious. That's what it fucking says here. Like, desire real. Full stop. What's the last word? Bro! Why have you done this? Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm gonna guess such desire to institute real democracy, just for the sakes of filling out that gap. The oligarchy have spent decades telling us that they can control the weather of the entire globe, but they have spent no money on democratic reform, which is a vastly simpler undertaking. The modern world runs on the basis of satellite communications, a mechanism dreamed up by a novelist in 1945. Da Vinci conceived of the principle of the helicopter flight in the 1400s. The idea of machines that performed computation was conceived in the early 1800s. In 1911, Michaels detailed the mechanisms by which the oligarchy could be removed from democracy, an idea conceived in 1870. Yet 150 years later, there's been no attempt to implement a mechanism to do this, and the masses are kept distracted by and kept uninformed of the very idea that things could be different. At some level, the 30 to 40% of voters who do not vote are aware that the entire system is a scam. And with the white flight, the indigenous people are moving away from the replacement population. These non-voting voters do the only thing that they can, which is to not be a part of the fraudulent scam imposed on them by the oligarchy. Undoubtedly, there are issues where even a single family, or within a single family, different individuals might want different outcomes in the democracy. But what currently passes for democracy in the West is one person sitting or getting their way, and then that person gaslighting or intimidating the rest of the family. Within a family, we might see parts of the elephant differently, but we can share information and perceptions and try to come to a shared understanding of that complex reality. Under direct democracy, we don't need parliament, nor political parties, so we don't need to have labels like socialist or capitalist, left-wing or right-wing. These labels are just attempts to gaslight us into not seeing other parts of the elephant. Under direct democracy, these labels and the division would vanish. Just like that. As individuals would once again have as much control as they could hope to have in a democracy. The oligarchy would no longer be able to manage and manipulate us under their ideology or democratic elitism. They would find that their attempts to propagandize the public via the media would be considerably less effective. And then the masses would put into place measures to remove more and more power from the oligarchy. In the 19th century, the liberal fear of democracy was the tyranny of the majority. Yet what we have with the oligarchy is tyranny by the most powerful, most scheming minority, the elite who play their great game of manipulation, deception, and staged conflicts. They are bringing in new people to the household to cause division and to ensure that the original family can never take power away from the tyrannical minority. The same liberals said that freedom of speech was vital, because with the complexity of reality, it is the silenced man who might be the only person who sees that aspect of reality correctly. The opinion, which it is attempted to suppress, may possibly be true. Those who desire to suppress it have no authority to decide the question for mankind. All silencing of discussion is an assumption of infallibility. Few think it's necessary to take precautions against their own fallibility. This 19th century liberalism was killed off by the infallible cult of leftism, a new religion, which doesn't care for the truth. For 60 years, people have denounced liberalism when they could have been correct if they had denounced leftism, including the leftism of consocialists and the 20th century liberals. And that will be all for this book, although I will be putting this up to the final part, wherever it is, if I can fucking find it. Here it is. So we will be continuing on from page 337, and that is basically going to be the final part of reading this book. And then we will probably have like a session or two where we go through the notes and all that, and the appendices and all that shit. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I think that was 7 strokes. It was definitely 6 bare minimum, so 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Anyone who put that poll wrote you were absolutely right. I'm still having so many strokes during these fucking reading sessions. It's unbelievable. And as I said, it's completely fucking random. There are times where I could literally end up not having a stroke in 20, 30 minutes. There are other times where I'll literally end up having a stroke every 5, 10 seconds. So I don't control this shit. It's completely random. But obviously, if you're interested in reading the last part of this book, tune in next Saturday. And then after that, I'll go through some of the notes and have a little read through for myself and see what else I can dig out from all of it. But in the meantime, I wish you all a good morning, afternoon, and evening. And I thank you for watching this video. Bye for now.